Hi. So, like many of you, I'm just seeing Apple's press releases this morning. They had three of them, if I recall, and we're kind of looking. It's October 18th of 2022. Looking at the new M2 releases and the other product line refreshes. So I'm going to start off with the iPad Pro video because I think I'm most excited about the iPad Pro. I've been using a 2018 iPad Pro 12.9 inch and 11 inch that I have mostly for work, but they are the two devices that I use day in and day out. I later on got an iPad mini. That's kind of my personal reading device. It's like my go-to at home for kind of on the go and reading longer form content. So for me, the iPad Pro has always fit into this really interesting space for me working. So let's dig in a little bit into some of the details of the release. So you'll see here, I pulled up Apple's page, and I am really intrigued. So a lot of things that we were expecting, right? So they've added the M2 chips to it, which we've seen there are some minor kind of spec boosts, especially on the GPU side. It really continues to be a device that would work well on the kind of okay. So let's dig into the specs for the new. Okay, so let's dig into the new details of the release for the iPad Pro. So not a huge surprise here. They updated it with the M2. I think we were all expecting that, and they're kind of claiming some of the big performance boosts. A lot of that bigger performance boost is coming. The CPU is a little bit faster, but the GPU comes along a bit faster. I'm really curious if the the SSD performance issues that we saw with the MacBook M2 Airs that had come out, if we're going to see any of that here. I don't know enough about the architecture of it. That'd be interesting to see. For me, if I'm looking between the two, I love this idea of like the Liquid Retina XDR display, bringing in the mini LEDs into that, which were in the last round. For me, like looking to upgrade, I would definitely think about that a bit. I just am a sucker for dark mode. It's just so nice. And for me, the biggest thing that's making me think about this is what's shown here. So like I know Stage Manager, and this is like a whole side thing about why this is getting pushed back until end of 2022. But the idea of having an external display that I could connect to, for me, is just the primary way I would use it. I would probably practically retire my laptop at that point for most of the work that I do. And I can talk a little bit more about that in other videos about kind of what that workflow is and why it's so important. Camera, fine. Center stage is something I found myself using a lot on my iPad mini. And then I found that my relatives, when we would FaceTime, like just didn't like it. So kind of stopped using it. LiDAR, I'm not huge into that. I have some colleagues at work who do work with fossils and other stuff. I'd be curious about the power of that in the field. That might be a cool follow up. And yeah, I think what I'm most excited about is this idea with the performance changes they brought to the pencil. I'll talk about that in a moment. So what they've added to the pencil now is you now have the ability to hover as a new UI interaction. So you'll see how in this demo video, they now have this ability to track not only when you're touching the screen, but when you're moving the screen. So when you're scribbling, bigger box, moving the cursor location, all of that, really excited to see how that works. I think for me, that would be a huge piece of like figuring out if the pencil fits into my workflow more than it did. I used it a lot in PDF markups and things like that, doing sketches and good notes, kind of different ideas, my brainstorming. I could talk about that more in other videos too. But that's a huge piece for me. Again, Magic Keyboard is still supported. They released a new Smart Folio keyboard too, which is also kind of a little different and interesting. And then they're pushing the pro grade app. So, here's Swift Playgrounds and kind of introducing that. I am curious about that. I don't see that as a huge selling point for me. I think for me, what I'd be most looking at is some of the tech spec bumps. So some of the things that jumped out at me in the press release. So one of the biggest is same thing with the last generation. 16 gigs of RAM is available if you have further on in the tech specs. They mention this, but You can get 16 gigs of RAM on the terabyte and 2 terabyte models. I don't think the 2 terabyte one is something I need, but the terabyte one would probably work pretty nicely. I have a lot of games and apps and stuff on there. They've updated some of the wireless connectivity. I think 6E is new. I didn't have, you can't compare the past specs, and I didn't capture it previously, but that was my understanding there. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of different updates. The pricing is something that a lot of people are talking out about. So, we're looking somewhere in the $800 range for the 11-inch and $1,000 for the Wi-Fi. I think that matches up to the last gen. The other iPad got a bit of a bump though. Specs wise, looks really similar. I thought it was interesting they kept the nano tray after dropping that from the iPhone 14s. This speaker array and speakers, or the microphone array and speakers, I'm really interested in that. I use the Dolby Atmos spatial audio stuff on my AirPod Pros all the time. First gen, I really like them. Yeah, I'm really thinking about picking myself up one of these, and if I do, I will totally share that out. So that was kind of my first little preview into kind of reacting to what I'm seeing for the releases. Not a huge release. We knew that. We knew because they weren't going to have a big event or any sort of kind of glitzy way of releasing it, that we thought it was going to be pretty incremental, but it's incremental in a good way. It's setting up this pathway with the new version of iPad OS, bringing on Stage Manager, desktop class apps. I think it's setting up for an interesting year of different things that we could see developers playing with it. So hope that was helpful for you, and check out and subscribe for the next one. Thank you.